Chapter 3: The Last Masquerade. The secret began to settle into Elena's bones. It was something she carried in the tight cage of her chest, bringing a constant tension that placed a pane of glass between her and the rest of the world. But before she could truly disappear into her new life, there was one final performance required. The Thorn Foundation's Spring Gala was an immovable object on the social calendar. Because Julian's PR team had insisted on a quiet period to protect a sensitive shipping merger, the public was still largely unaware that the couple of the Thorn Empire had separated. They were expected to appear as a united front one last time, a final masquerade. The dress Elena chose was a sleek silk column in midnight blue. It was a masterpiece of tailoring, designed to skim the body without clinging, but as Sarah zipped her up in the small West Village bedroom, Elena had to close her eyes and regulate her breathing. The fabric felt like a second skin. Her stomach was still flat to everyone else, but to her, the slight swell felt like a loud accusation. "You look good, Elle," Sarah noted as she reached for a velvet box on the dresser and clicked it open. Inside sat the Thorn emeralds. The necklace was an ornate piece Julian had bought for their 5th anniversary. It was cold against Elena's skin, a collar of green fire that felt more like a leash than an ornament. "I don't feel good," Elena admitted. She touched the cold emeralds. "I'm just ready for it to be over." The car arrived at 7. Same black town car, same smell of leather and high-stakes expectations. Julian was already inside. He was looking out the window at the rain-slicked streets. When Elena slid onto the leather seat, he just tapped the glass partition, and they were moving. Elena looked straight ahead. Beside her, Julian's finger tapped a steady rhythm on the armrest. It was the only sound. She knew that movement. He was calculating. He was running numbers or assessing risks. Maybe he was just counting the seconds until he could be rid of her. The gala was held in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. As they stepped out of the car, a blinding wave of paparazzi flashes washed over them. Julian's arm moved instinctively. He didn't reach for her hand. He placed his palm firmly against the small of her back, a guiding pressure that forced her forward. To the cameras, it looked like affection. To Elena, it felt like being steered by a captain who had already decided to abandon ship. Once inside, the crowd swallowed them. Julian headed toward the bar with a nod. Elena drifted toward a circle of women near the tall windows. "The launch is set for June," one of them was saying. "The whole collection is inspired by the Amalfi Coast. We're only doing 12 pieces." The other woman smiled, her eyes on the stones. "It's stunning. People are going to love it. I just started a podcast series. We're interviewing female founders in the technology industry." Elena watched them. To this circle, having an ordinary job was pointless. Their time and talent had to be spent on something extraordinary. A project was only worth doing if it matched the life you lived, but it was so much harder to prove your value when you already had the wealth in hand. For many in this room, that expectation was a constant struggle. She used to be one of them, but now it's a different game. Her firm needed to survive first. So, when one of them asked, "Elena, what were you up to recently?" she gave her best smile and started to look for opportunity. She knew she had to launch as many projects as possible before the news broke. Julian was also doing his part, moving through the crowd with the ease of a man who owned the room. But even as he spoke, he couldn't help but notice Elena. She was doing well. Her smile was bright and constant. Usually, these events were a chore for her. She would drift behind him, waiting for the moment they could finally leave. Now, she was perfectly blended into the circle, leaning into conversations rather than pulling away. Julian watched with a sneer from across the room as she joined another group, this one centered around Lady Cecily, the matriarch of the Henderson family. That was a connection most people would kill for, but it wouldn't work for her. Real connections were made through traded favors, not from smiles at a party. He stepped over, sliding a hand firmly onto her arm. "Could I borrow her for a second?" he asked the group. "She's needed for the foundation photos." "What are you doing? Let go." Elena tried to get her arm out of his grip as he led her toward the shadows of the grand staircase. "What were you doing over there?" Julian whispered. "What are you talking about?" Elena felt no guilt in looking for business leads that way, but she wasn't ready to share it with Julian yet. "It won't work." Why not? People do business that way.
It won't work for you. Julian gave a short laugh. Do you know how stupid you look?
He wasn't trying to help. He just watched her with this mocking smile. Stupid? Elena's eyes flashed with anger. Yes, I am stupid. Otherwise, I wouldn't have agreed to play along with this whole thing. Julian, Elena. Their argument was cut short. Julian's mother, Beatrice Thorne, stood at the base of the staircase. Elena searched her face for a sign that she had overheard the argument, but the woman gave nothing away. She kept her distance, watching them for a second before her lips curved into a smile. I heard that you've been quite busy recently, Elena. The words were simple, yet Elena could sense the judgment behind them. Even now, she couldn't shake the old habit of feeling small in front of the woman who had always made her feel disqualified.
She is. Julian stepped into Beatrice's line of sight. Her firm has been keeping her busy lately. There's no need for concern.
Elena noticed that his hand came up to cover hers. His thumb began tracing a slow pattern over her palm. It was a gesture he used to do when they were happy, a silent code that meant I have you. The board is asking about the summer gala. There are rumors of instability. Elena felt her spine go rigid. She could handle the socialites, but Beatrice Thorne could smell a lie through 3 layers of silk.
Rumors are for people with too much time and too little information, Mother. With that, Julian turned Elena away without a second glance at his mother. It was a public snub, but Julian didn't seem to care.
He led her directly toward the exit. In the back of car, the silence returned.
Julian sat as far from her as the seat allowed, staring at the blurred neon of Manhattan through the glass. When the car pulled to the curb of her West Village apartment, he finally turned. His eyes scanned her face, noting her perfect smile had collapsed into exhaustion. I know you want to stand on your feet, Elena, but you're overextending yourself, he said. Save your time for something that matters.
Elena didn't answer. She pulled the door handle and stepped out into the night. As the car pulled away, Elena stood on the sidewalk, clutching her silk evening bag and her secret. She realized that even in their wreckage, Julian was still watching her, still trying to stand guard over her. She turned and began the long climb up the 6 flights of stairs, her hand resting over her stomach. The masquerade was over, but the journey for her independence had only just begun.